Assalamu alaikum everybody. Welcome back to my channel Rapid Revision. Today I'll be solving a section B question from an economics past paper. This was from May-June 2024. It was paper 2 variant 1. The question here says, in recent years, the mobility of labor, the number of women in the labor force and GDP have increased in Bangladesh. In 2019, the Central Bank of Bangladesh approved 3 new commercial banks. In that year, women on average earned 77% of the pay of men in Bangladesh. The country's economy experienced the world's 7th highest economic growth rate with an increase in GDP of 7.4%. The first part here says, identify 2 influences on mobility of labor. So what mobility of labor is all about? So the interesting thing about economics questions is that there are certain terminologies that are very specific to economics. So if students don't know those terminologies, it is very difficult to understand the question. Like mobility of labor is one of the terminologies. So mobility of labor, what is mobility of labor all about? So mobility itself means that how easy it is for labor to move between occupations, that is occupational mobility of labor, and how easy it is for the labor to move from one region to another, so from one location to another for a job, and that's called geographical mobility of labor. So what is mobility itself is the ease with which labor can be moved from one task to another or from one location to another for a job. But here they are saying identify 2 influences. So what affects the mobility of labor? That is what they are asking here. So if you know mobility of labor, what influences mobility of labor? Number one, what comes to my mind is the transport system of the country. So how easy it is, how is the transport system? So if the transport system is very good, so what happens is that it is easy for this workers to move from one place to another for a job. Similarly, transport system, so public transport system of the country. You can say family ties is also one of the factors that influences the mobility of labor. I'll tell you how. So there are certain people who don't want to move from one country to another for a job because of their family ties, um, to their own, to like family ties in their own country. So that basically restricts their mobility. That is why family ties is a very important influence on mobility of labor. Similarly, for occupational mobility of labor, family ties is for geographical mobility of labor. Transport system of the country is also again for geographic mobility of labor, geographical mobility of labor. For occupational mobility qualifications, so the more qualified a worker is, the better their mobility is. So qualifications, and then the level of education, how many years they have spent in the in education or in acquiring their qualification. So the more the number of years you've invested in acquiring your qualifications, the more occupationally mobile any person is. And there are lots of other factors also that can affect the mobility of labor. For example, the training the labor has received, or the distance from the house to the workplace is also one of the factors of factors that affect the mobility of labor. Okay, the next part here says, so you guys need to know this. It's very important that identify is a command word which does not require you to explain your answer. They just ask you to state points. So there's one command word, it's called state, S-T-A-T-E. The other command word, identify. Both of these require students to write just points. Okay, the next part here says, this was part A. So I'll write here part A. The next part here says, explain 2 benefits that consumers may gain from having more commercial banks. So there are many commercial banks in a city. So what are the benefits that the consumers are getting because of having many commercial banks in a city? So that what I think of is that it is very convenient for a consumer if there are multiple commercial banks. So there's one specific bank, but there are a lot of branches in a lot of areas for that specific bank. So it is easier for consumers. It's very convenient to reach out to your bank and get the services that you want, because it's very very convenient. And if your bank branch is near to your house, so it's just reduces the traveling time, it's easier, it's hassle free. So it's more convenient to have many branches of commercial banks. That is one of the advantages to consumers. Also, one more thing here, also very important keyword is commercial banks, which you guys should know what commercial banks are. Commercial banks are those banks which give services to the customers in general. So, like for example, any bank that is available to you guys, it is a commercial bank. So, like I have my account in a commercial bank. Lots of people have, consumers basically go to commercial banks. Banks go to central banks. You guys must know that central bank is a government bank. But the bank you and I can go to is a commercial bank. Again, there's one more thing, that if we have more choice, there'll be greater range of services. If there'll be more commercial banks, there'll be greater range of services. You have more choice, so consumers having more choice is always good, because then there is a lot of competition. And what happens is, then when there is more competition, the quality of the service that is being provided improves because of more choice and more competition. So yes, the quality of the services that the bank is providing will improve because of consumers having more choice and more banks to go to. Also, greater range of services. Also, it is possible that since there are so many commercial banks, the consumers have a lot of choice. They can also have a choice on maybe getting lower interest rates in some banks, because obviously there is too much competition, and um, also banks also want customers to save with them, and to to take loans from them. So they can maybe charge a less interest on loans, and give out good returns on savings, so that more customers are attracted. So yes, that can be another advantage of a commercial bank. So yes, this I have just written points, guys, but you guys have to write your answer in proper paragraphs. It's always recommended whenever we are solving an economics question and they are saying explain two benefits, you should have one benefit in one paragraph. So if you have a benefit and then you explain the benefit, like go into the if you say, let's say, if you say there will be convenience, so the convenience is just one point. But if you get into the depth of it, you'll say if there are more commercial banks, the customers have they'll not have to spend more time traveling to the bank, so it'll be very convenient for them. That'll save their time if it's closer to their home. And it becomes very very easy to reach out to a bank. So that is basically the explanation. So if you just say convenience, that's just a point, right? So you get 1 mark for the point and 1 mark for your explanation. So you always have to explain what you are saying in an explain question, because the command word says explain. The second point, obviously, you can then say there will be more choice because there are many commercial banks. So the quality of services that are being provided will improve because of more choice. So more choice with the customer. So also the bank may also charge less bank charges because of more competition. They want to be price competitive also. So the bank might less charge less for their services because of more competition. So yes, quality of the services. And then you need to obviously go into the depth. More choice is just a point, right? So go into the depth of it in the second paragraph. Always remember, you need to follow the command words properly, because command words are actually what the examiner's requirement is, that you need to know your command words in economics especially. Okay, the next part here says analyze why women may be paid less than men. So there are lots of reasons why women are paid less than men on jobs. it is true in some cases. So why are women paid less? So there is one thing called something that women, it's specific to women, that they have to raise a family, they have to bear children. Also, a lot of times women take career breaks. There's maternity leave specific to women and not for men. And that is why, yes, women, if they'll take a career break, so of course their salary will not match up to them to any man's salary of their own age. So that is why they have family commitments. They take time to raise a family. That is very important. Uh, it's a very important reason why women are paid less. In some cases, yes, if women have less qualifications, less skills, obviously they'll be paid less. Less skills means that women will be less productive. If someone is less productive, they'll be paid less. So that is also important. And if they haven't spent a lot of time in education and training, then of course they'll be paid less. In some cases, women also have less bargaining power. So that is very important, because a lot of times women do agree on lower wages, and that is why the employers just exploit the situation in that case, because the woman in front of them, who has come as an employee, is not asking for a higher wage. So that is also important. Men usually have better negotiation skills sometimes, because uh, they just outrightly ask for a higher wage, and they don't very easily agree to what the employer is offering. So yes, in some cases, yes, women are discriminated also, because they are women. A lot of times, some employers do undervalue their productivity, and sometimes they face discrimination, and they are paid less because of discrimination. Some employers think that you guys don't write this in your answer, but yes, some employers do think that women don't have to take care of a family financially. That is why they end up paying them less. So that is also true in some workplaces. So again, you guys need to write a point, and then you need to write the the why and how of it. So it is very important that why are you writing a point, why and how is it relevant. You guys need to write that. You need to explain this explain your points well, because the point is not going to get you the full score on this answer. But yes, you need to also get into the depth of it. Okay, the next part here says discuss. So discuss is again an argumentative answer. What argumentative questions, the objective is that you need to build an argument for and against. So whatever the question is saying, you first support the argument. So whenever you're supporting the arguments, you need to have points which help you support the argument, and you need to also like write it in develop the answer. You develop your points really well. Here the question says, discuss whether or not people living in countries with a high GDP enjoy higher living standards than people in countries with a low GDP. So how is GDP linked to living standards? So if you guys don't know what GDP is, again, you cannot tell how is it going to affect the living standards, and you cannot support the argument or go against it. But high GDP means higher incomes in general, because GDP is also the national income of the country. What is GDP? So GDP, the definition of GDP is that it is the total value of those goods and services which have been produced in a country in a given year. The final value of goods and services. So if you add up all the value of all the goods and services that have been produced in a country in one year, you will find out the GDP. But GDP again is, let's say someone's expenditure is someone else's income. So whenever these goods and services will be sold, obviously they'll generate income. So that is why your GDP is also the total income of the country. So if GDP is the total of income of the country, you have to think, okay, people living in countries with high GDP, so there's high incomes. And will they enjoy high living standards? What are living standards? So you need to get into the depth of living standards. If you open up living standards, it's not just high income, it's healthcare, it's your affordability of goods and services, it is education, it is your, sometimes living standard is also your, freedom in general in the country. So a country with a high crime rate, for example, will have lower living standards because the crime rate is very high. It's not very easy to get out of your house, and there's no freedom, and people are generally scared and anxious of going out of their house, and there's robbery and everything. That is also something that just deteriorates the living standards in a country. But the yes points, okay, when you have high incomes, you can have you can enjoy goods and services. So that means high incomes means that we can enjoy whatever, we can afford to buy any goods and services that we want to buy. So that means obviously we'll be able to go for expensive products, or high quality products, and then we can also avail high quality services if we have high incomes. So yes, when you support the argument, you will say yes, higher incomes means that people have people's purchasing power is very good. They can buy more goods and services, high quality goods and services. They can also avail expensive services, high quality services. Also, they can afford better education, of course, because someone who has high income will obviously end up in a good university. Good universities also have very, very like their fee is quite high. So that is why high incomes is very important to go end up in better education. And also high incomes means that we can spend more on healthcare. So that means we can be very regular with our healthcare checkups, and that will increase our life expectancy. So which can basically, high incomes means that people are able to spend more on their health care. They can take care of their health. They can also focus on nutrition, also focus on high quality products, and that will also increase their life expectancy. A lot of times when people have high incomes, they have their regular appointments with doctors, they have their regular checkups. That basically improves their living standard, because it also improves their life expectancy. So yes, when I'm supporting the arguments, obviously I will talk about healthcare, I will talk about education, I will talk about the goods and services that we can buy with higher incomes. So that is why what I tell my students normally is that whenever you see some keywords in the question, right? So like living standard is a keyword, but living standard is a very broad word, right? So you get into the depth of that broad word. So living standards is just not it's not just about goods and services, or it's not just about being rich. It's about having a lifestyle, also affording better education, affording better healthcare. All of it is living standards in general. Also, I talked about freedom, right? So all of it is all of it is generally living standards. So what you need to know is that living standard, you just open up the keyword, and that is also going to help you build your answer. Because obviously in one point, in one paragraph, you can talk about goods and services and the high quality goods and services that we can purchase with high incomes. In the second paragraph, you can talk about education. In the third paragraph, you can talk about healthcare, nutrition, etc. So that helps you, build paragraphs. Also write longer answers, not longer answers as such, but in-depth answers, which the examiners want. The examiners want development in this kind of in these kind of questions. On the no side, I will say, okay, high GDP does not mean high GDP per head, because yes, GDP per head means that total GDP of the country divided by the number of people, that will give you GDP per person. So if, let's say, GDP is quite high, but then the population is very high as well, so your GDP per person goes down. So that means, let's say, if even if someone is earning a lot, but let's say they have a lot of dependents, that actually also is something that deteriorates their living standard. But generally, GDP per head is also a very important indicator. GDP per head, in fact, GDP per head is the most important indicator of living standard. Okay, the next point here says incomes may be unevenly distributed. So someone may be very rich and someone may be very poor. So that is called uneven distribution of income. So that is basically going to, in general, then not everybody has living better living standards. People who are very rich, they have very good living standards, but then people who are very poor, and if the government is not taking care of them, then they have very poor living standards. So okay, people in countries with high GDP may be working longer hours and may be stressed. So if they are earning so much, they might be spending a lot of hours in their on their jobs, etc., which means they may be very stressed because of working longer hours. And that is why they are ending up with high incomes. So then the next point here, high GDP may also mean high levels of pollution. Yes, because we know when there is high GDP, that is also an indicator that the country is producing a lot of goods and services. When they are producing a lot of goods and services, that means there can be high levels of traffic congestion, noise pollution, and then when you are producing a lot of output, there's too much production. So that also causes a lot of pollution in the country. Also, one more point, that people in countries with high GDP, however, the crime rates are very high, or there's no freedom in general. So that also deteriorates the living standards of people in that country. So what you need to do is that for the yes side, you need to write 2 points at least with a lot of development. And on the no side also, at least 2 points with a lot of development. Try to have that, development is very important. Just writing a point will not get you all the marks. Development is important. Development means that, yes, like I said, incomes are unevenly distributed. So you can say some people may be very rich, some people may be very poor. So poor people might not be enjoying high living standards, but then rich people are enjoying very high living standards. So everybody is not benefiting from good living standards. So yes, you need a lot of development in this kind of an answer. Also, this answer is written in paragraphs. I've written points here, but that is how I actually plan my answer. So whenever I plan my answer, I write the yes points, I write the no points on a paper, and then I write my essay length answer. So discuss type is an essay length answer. So you guys need to have all the points in mind, write all the yes points first, and then use the word however on the other hand, and then write all the no points with development, and then build paragraphs so that it is very easy for the examiner to read through your answers. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this helps you.